Joy is all around us if we choose to let it in. Last week, a mom and her little daughter were walking down the sidewalk on East Teague Avenue between Chestnut and Maple. Some of us might know that stretch of sidewalk. Anybody? No? Yep, good. Yep, okay, great. There was a canopy of glorious fall foliage, brilliant gold and yellow leaves, both on the trees and also carpeting the sidewalk. But the mom was aware of none of that, as her head was down, scrolling through the social media feed on her iPhone. Mom was having a rough day. Health issues, pre-holiday anxiety, and worry about another COVID variant. And her news feed was making her mood only worse. Meanwhile, her young daughter was skipping happily beside her, eyes wide with wonder at the fall colors all around her. Distracted by her phone and her own internal turmoil, the mom failed to see that just ahead, the sidewalk was cracked and uneven. And so when her shoe struck that raised, broken edge of the pavement, she momentarily lost her balance. Mom let loose with a word no parent should ever utter within earshot of a 5-year-old, regained her balance, and scowled at the sidewalk. "What a crappy neighborhood this is," muttered the mom. "They don't even bother to fix the sidewalks." Meanwhile, her young daughter bent down to gently touch the small flower growing through the crack in the sidewalk and exclaimed, "Look, Mommy, how pretty the flower is. It makes my heart smile." Beloved Vietnamese Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh writes, "Sometimes your joy is the source of your smile, but sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy." Sometimes your joy is the source of your smile, but sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy. That small flower growing through the crack in the sidewalk made that little girl's heart smile because she was already smiling at the world around her. In other words, joy doesn't happen automatically. We have to choose to see that which can become our joy. We need to be aware to the possibility of joy that can be found in the simple, the mundane, or the ordinary. Hermann Hesse, the German-Swiss poet and novelist, wrote, "Our misused, overstrained eyes can be, if only we are willing, an inexhaustible source of pleasure. When I walk to work in the morning, I see many workers who have just crawled sleepily out of bed, hurrying in both directions, shivering along the streets. Most of them walk fast and keep their eyes on the pavement, or at most on the clothes and faces of the passerby. Heads up, dear friends. Just try it once. A tree, or at least a considerable section of sky, is to be seen anywhere. It does not even have to be a blue sky. In some way or another, the light of the sun makes itself felt. Accustom yourself every morning to look for a moment at the sky, and suddenly you will be aware of the air around you, the scent of morning freshness that is bestowed on you between sleep and labor. Pay it some heed, if you will have, and you will have for the rest of the day, a remnant of satisfaction. A remnant of satisfaction. And just to be clear, joy doesn't only come through the eyes. Any of our senses can be a portal to joy. Unitarian Universalist poet Anne Sexton captures this so well in her poem entitled "Welcome Morning." So just picture yourself this morning in your kitchen. How aware were we? This is Anne and her kitchen. She writes, "There is joy in all, in the hair I brush each morning, in the towel newly washed that I rub my body with each morning, in the eggs I cook each morning, in the outcry from the kettle that heats my coffee each morning, in the spoon and the chair that cry, 'Hello there, Anne,' each morning, in the Godhead of the table that I set my silver plate and cup upon each morning. All this is God, right here in my pea green house each morning. And I mean, though often forget to give thanks, to faint down by the kitchen table in a prayer of rejoicing as the holy birds at the kitchen window peck into their marriage of seeds. So, while I think of it, let me paint a thank you on my poem, this laughter of the morning, lest it go unspoken. The joy that isn't shared, I've heard, dies young." In her article, "How to Find Joy in Everyday Life, Even When Life Feels Awful," columnist Nicole Natalie writes, "Lots of people confuse joy with happiness. And although they are closely related and often occur simultaneously, these feel-good emotions aren't synonymous. Happiness is an emotion that brings bursts of intense pleasure, while joyfulness is a strong, longer-term state that results in feelings of inner peace and contentment." Let me repeat that. Happiness is an emotion that brings bursts of intense pleasure, while joyfulness is a strong, longer-term state that results in feelings of inner peace and contentment. I want to pause for a moment to say that if you have times when you cannot feel joy, inner peace, or contentment, you're not alone. Those of us living with depression or anxiety, those of us struggling with the trauma caused by almost 2 full years of this pandemic, those of us grieving the loss of a loved one, we might feel cut off from joy, peace, or contentment, some or all of the time. If this is true for us, please know that treatment with therapy, treatment with medication might help. At the very least, reach out to someone so you feel less alone. Or send me an email and we can talk. The call to infuse joy into our life also infuses many religions. As noted by writer and speaker Leo Buscaglia, the North African ancient Egyptians believed that upon death they would be asked 2 questions, and their answers would determine whether they could continue their journey into the afterlife. The first question was, did you bring joy? The second was, did you find joy? Did you bring joy? Did you find joy? The Reverend Tom Owens Towle, a Unitarian Universalist minister, notes, the Quran and the Talmud, sacred books of Muslims and Jews, teach that we will be held accountable for every permissible pleasure life has offered us and that we've refused to enjoy during our earthly sojourn. I just love that. We're being judged on whether we enjoyed life, not whether we sinned or not, as some tradition teaches. As I noted in a sermon last March, at the beginning of the pandemic, joy is also central to our Unitarian Universalist faith. Just look at our history at a time when many churches were teaching that the purpose of life was to obey God, please God, and fear God, or we would be thrown into the fires of hell. Our Universalist forebears believed something radically different. They said that if there is a God, then that God is all-loving and would never condemn anyone to eternal damnation. They taught that there was no hell, that like a loving parent, the Holy One would never punish anyone for eternity. I know no parent here would ever have their kids stand in the corner for all eternity. Our Universalist forebears believed that there was enough love in the universe for everyone. They said this liberated us from the need to live a fearful life. In fact, our Universalist forebears believed God wanted us to feel joy. The purpose of life, they said, was not to be saved in some afterlife. The purpose of life was to be joyful in this life. Now, not in a selfish or hedonistic way, but in a way that allows us to put down the heavy burden of sin and pick up the gift that is this life. As Maya Angelou exclaims, joy is freedom. It helps a person to find their own liberation. The person who is joyous takes responsibility for the time they take up and the space they occupy. Unitarian Universalism issues us an invitation to joy, but it can't guarantee us joy. As Tina outlined so powerfully in her reflection a few minutes ago, if we want joy, we have to choose joy as a daily spiritual practice. And that isn't always easy, especially when we've been so worn down and disillusioned in these complex and conflicted times. In her acclaimed book, Daring Greatly, author Brené Brown speaks to this, saying, I'd argue that joy is probably the most difficult emotion to really feel. In a culture of deep scarcity, of never feeling safe, certain, or sure enough, joy can feel like a setup. We're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Scarcity and fear drive foreboding joy. We're afraid that the feelings of joy won't last, or that we won't be enough, or that the transition to disappointment or whatever is in store for us next will be too difficult. We've learned that giving in to joy is at best setting ourselves up for disappointment, and at worst, inviting disaster. Brené Brown continues, and we struggle with the worthiness issue. Do we deserve our joy, given our inadequacies and imperfections? What about the starving children and war-ravaged world? Who are we to be joyful? Do we even have the right to feel pleasure when so much pain and oppression is all around us. Do we even have the right to feel pleasure when so much pain and oppression is all around us? If these questions resonate with us, the celebrated writer, activist, and Black feminist Adrienne Maree Brown offers a helpful reframe in her book, Pleasure Activism, a reframe that is especially relevant for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Adrienne Maree Brown says, "Pleasure reminds us to enjoy being alive and on purpose. Pleasure, embodied, connected pleasure, is one of the ways that we know that we are free, that we always have the power to co-create the world. Pleasure helps move us through the times that are unfair, through grief and loneliness, through the terror of genocide, or days when the demands are just overwhelming. Pleasure heals the places where our hearts and spirits get wounded. Pleasure reminds us that even in the shadows, we are alive. Pleasure is a medicine for the suffering that is absolutely promised in life. Pleasure is the point," she says. "Feeling good is not frivolous. It is freedom." In her review of Adrienne Maree Brown's book, reporter Catherine Lizette Gonzalez observes that Brown highlights the many ways people of color, sex workers, disabled people, and queer, trans, and non-binary people have been denied joy, and why we must center their pleasure as an organizing principle. In an interview with Repeller.com, Adrienne Maree Brown builds on that notion, saying, "Oppression makes us believe that pleasure is not something that we all have access to." She continues, "One of the ways that we start doing the work of reclaiming our full selves, our whole liberated, free selves, is by reclaiming our access to pleasure." She continues, "As a Black woman in this country, I have to walk around every day knowing that had I been born at a different time in this country's history, it would have been part of the law that I could be raised for the pleasure of whoever owned me at that time. I'm trying to come all the way back from that to living in my own dignity and the self-actualization of my own pleasure." For people who have been traditionally marginalized by a straight, white, male-dominated culture, choosing joy is an act of liberation. This gives an even deeper meaning to that quote we heard earlier by Thich Nhat Hanh. "Sometimes your joy is the source of your smile, but sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy." Joy is all around us if we choose to let it in. May this be true for each one of us. And may we work together to shape a future where this can be true for all people. Everyone should be able to say, "Look, Mommy, how pretty the flower is. It makes my heart smile." Que así sea, bendito sea. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.